Chapter 2. Through Your Eyes. The hands that held everything. I remember your hands, Mom. The way they wove comfort into the threads of our lives, even when silence drifted heavily in the air. Those hands could change a tire on the side of the road, coax a stubborn zipper back to life, and cradle a cup of hot chocolate just right. They painted our walls with colors of laughter and brushed away tears like the wind clears leaves, softly, effectively, almost invisibly. It's odd, isn't it? How a person's essence can be distilled into something so simple, so tactile. Your hands were never just physical. They were like anchors in a stormy sea, grounding my spirit with every touch. Sometimes I think about the moments that passed between us, the ups and downs, and the unsaid words, like the ebb and flow of tides that shape a shore over time. Your hands held everything, packed neatly into boxes of love, sorrow, and joy, even when you weren't aware of it. I think of one specific afternoon. It was rainy, the kind of gray that makes everything feel softer, quieter. I was supposed to be studying for an exam, but those numbers and words just danced out of my head and splashed onto the walls like paint gone rogue. You'd been making a pot of your famous chicken adobo in the kitchen when the scent pulled me away from my frustration. I found you standing at the stove, your hands stirring the simmering pot with the same grace you used when tucking in my collar before school. "You've got to taste it, Anna," you said, turning to me with a spoon in hand, the steam swirling like memories around us. You offered it to me, your hand steady and calm, a soft invitation. I see it clearly now, that little gesture. It was a moment of connection amid the chaotic rhythm of our lives. You always knew that food could soothe what words sometimes struggle to express. In that memory, I felt not only the warmth of the food but the warmth of you. Those moments stitched together like a quilt, warm and persistent, creating a tapestry of our bond. The fabric showed the impressions of laughter, compassion, and unspoken worries, often cloaked under a smile that felt so reassuring. But those smiles, even when tender, also carried shadows, unvoiced conversations that lingered at the periphery of our love. Maybe it was because of the expectations woven into our lives. Or perhaps it was culture, ancient and heavy, teaching us to swallow our emotions like pills lodged in the throat, leaving us without the vocabulary to express what was truly churning inside. I remember feeling your hesitation when I became an adult, how the space between us sprawled wider, and the words that fell from your lips were often coated with a thin gloss of joviality, even when you struggled beneath the surface. It's never easy to unearth the buried treasure of dialogue, the kind that unlocks all the paths to healing. In the silence hiding behind your laughter, I sometimes caught a glimpse of your fears, a world without me, a home echoing with memories, and hands I would eventually let go. Those hands that once held me so tightly also had to learn the art of release. The day I left for college felt like a slow-motion train wreck. I remember grabbing my suitcase, all juvenile bravado, and turning to find you standing in the doorway, a beacon of strength wrapped in vulnerability. Your hands rested by your sides at first, clenching and unclenching as if in a silent protocol of letting go. "You'll be okay, right?" you asked, and even then, amid the adrenaline of youth, I could hear the gravity in your voice, and it tugged at something deep within me. I nodded bravely, unaware that the act was laced with a naive optimism. What I should have said was, "I'll be okay if you're okay." But I wrapped your hands in mine, a brief but poignant moment, before breaking away into the world. Those memories haunt and heal. And I don't think you, or I, ever realized how deeply intertwined our hearts were, despite the glittering silence that often adorned our conversations. So many letters go unwritten, crammed under layers of pride, grief, and just life getting in the way. The irony is almost poetic, how love can sit heavy in the heart without ever finding its way to the page or the words. Now, as I ponder the loss of you, I learn to reconstruct our memories with the tender strength of your hands still wrapped around me. Although the distance is physical, your hands, as delicate as they were resilient, hold more than just the memories. They cradle the unspoken affection woven between heartbeats. I'm left here with the remnants of words I wish I could send to you now, letters unaddressed and waiting for their moment to be read. Writing to you, though never written, brings a rhythm back into my heart. Each stroke of the pen replicates the warmth of your hands, guiding me through the quagmire of emotions I've tucked away. Sometimes, It seems the simplest gestures carry the heaviest stories, don't you think? As I share my heart here, I hope to unlock some of that silence, the kind that's comfortable but also stifling. I hope to find the beauty nestled in words, those hands that no longer hold me but still cradle everything I am. So here I am, conversing with shadows, seeking solace not just in the smile of the past but in the profound understanding of love that lingers beyond time. We can never go back, but we can learn to embrace what was left unsaid. With every letter I write, I send my love back to you, a piece of my heart cradled in memory, wrapped in tenderness, just as your hands once held everything. The things you never said either. There are whispers in the corners of my heart, echoes of your thoughts, gathering dust like the framed photographs hanging on the living room wall. A glimpse of us in happier times, but there's a longing woven through every smile, isn't there? In silence, we have spoken volumes, and yet we have left so much unsaid, you and I. In those quiet afternoons when you'd sit across from me, knitting needles clicking away, I often wondered what you thought about between each stitch. What dreams lingered behind your calm gaze? Did you ever wish to travel the world? Or did the weight of obligations tether you to our little town? I never dared to ask. You taught me many things: how to fend for myself, the rhythm of meals being served, and the art of small talk at family gatherings. But, oh, how I wish you'd shared the messy threads of your own dreams and fears. Maybe you thought your struggles were too burdensome for me, or perhaps you believed that silence could shield me from life's cruel realities. Yet, it's in this silence where the truest depths of connection seem to drown, isn't it? I remember vividly the day I decided to move away. The air was thick with unspoken words, and you stood at the door, your hands clasped tightly, expressions dancing across your face. I could see you wanted to say something, an invitation to stay, maybe, or a wish to express your love in ways that transcended language. But all that hung between us were "I'll miss you" and futile nods, as if they were all we needed. What about the things you never said? That longing for connection you carried, perhaps? Did you feel it too? The aching, bittersweet silence in our shared spaces? You must have, yet each time I glanced at your fragile frame, I couldn't muster the words that would bridge the divide. It's ironic. We were close, and yet felt millions of miles apart sometimes. I've moved through life thinking often about the conversations we didn't have. The heart-to-hearts where we looked back at our lives as one instead of merely seeing ourselves reflected in each other. You were a glowing lighthouse through the fog, but I wish we could have spoken of your storms too, not just the sunny days. There's a beauty in vulnerability that we seldom honor together. What would you have said if the walls could have spoken? If time didn't bind our truths into whispers but expanded them into shouts? It makes me yearn to hear you say the mere phrase, "I'm proud of you." Instead, all I got were quick pats on the back and brief smiles that seemed to say you'll do fine. Did you hold back your pride, feeling it was too much to express? I always craved that tangible honesty, the kind that bore the essence of our bond. Now, as I sit down to write these unsent letters, I can't help but think, those words you carried may have lingered too long. Pictures from our shared past come flooding back, reminding me of the moments when your eyes sparkled with something unshared. Perhaps they were messier than the perfection you painted, and perhaps they terrified you too. But even if they remain tucked inside, those words still belong to us. There's a certain beauty in unspoken love, but it can also feel incredibly heavy. You often masked your fears with laughter, and believed that keeping my own aspirations alive would allow you to live through me. But did you know I wanted your dreams to flourish? Did you ever fear that I would judge your feelings, leave you exposed and vulnerable? The irony of it all is that by keeping quiet, you built barriers while I was busy trying to unlock the door to your heart. I think back to your stories of my childhood, the sleepless nights you spent worrying about my future, but I couldn't see it then. To me, they blurred into fleeting chance of routine. I wish I could articulate how much I wanted to discover those hidden parts of you, the tapestry of emotions that stitched you into being. Take me back to the time we sat together in the park, searching for shapes in the clouds, and you told me about your mother. Did you ever think I was curious for more? I wanted to delve into the intricacies of her choices, to understand the complexities that shaped you. Instead, you swirled around your thoughts and brushed them off like dust on the windowsill. Little did we know how silences would grow and fester if they weren't tended to. Those echoes, the emotions swirling, they can be a source of pain, yes, but they can also carry the sweetness of memories. The things you never said could weave together compassion and understanding, breathing life into the spaces between us. Because, my dear mother, silence was never our enemy. It merely stood sentinel over the truths we were too afraid or too proud to voice. Here we are, separated by miles, memories, and ultimately time. I penned down everything I never got the chance to say in our conversations, and as each letter unfolds, I realize we're sharing them now. I trust that perhaps even in silence, you can feel my words, and maybe in some timeless space, you can whisper back to me the words you never had the courage to reveal. Let's meet again, my love. Let's reclaim those silences and turn them into a river of understanding. We'll let them flow free, guided by the love we both sought to express, lost amidst the silence we shared. The mother I never knew. I often find myself drifting back to the memories that leave a bittersweet ache in my heart. The fleeting moments, sunlit afternoons and gentle rain tapping against our old roof, hold whispers of a woman I never fully met. She was both a part of me and an enigma, her silence wrapping around her like a veil of mystery. My mother, my ghost, the beautiful specter I longed to know. Growing up, I sensed her love, though it often hid behind the walls of unspoken words. We shared a home filled with laughter and warmth, yet there were days when the air felt thick with an unsaid longing, a touch of sadness woven into our daily lives. I can still picture her folding laundry, her hands trembling slightly, the weight of unexpressed dreams pooling like shadows behind her fierce green eyes. She was a woman who loved, but perhaps didn't know how to unearth those words buried deep inside her heart. When I think back to our evenings, sitting side by side in the living room, I'd sometimes sneak glances at her as she immersed herself in a book. I'd lose myself in the cadence of her breathing, wondering what thoughts swirled in the depths of her mind. Was she reliving memories? Was she wishing for something more? I never dared to ask. Our conversations often skimmed over shallow waters, avoiding the depths where emotion stirred. There's a certain ache in recognizing that the mother I yearn for, the one with stories to share and laughter resonating like music, has always felt just out of reach. How different might our narrative have been if we had dared to explore those hidden corners together? What if I had found the courage to penetrate the silence that wrapped around us like a comforting blanket? Growing up Filipino, I found it ironic how our culture beautifully intertwines love and silence. The grand family gatherings, bursting with laughter and chatter, often masked the quieter emotions simmering just below the surface. My relatives exchanged warmth with their hands, perhaps forgetting the power of words lingering unspoken. My mother carried this legacy of silence, so heavy yet so delicate, as if breaking it might shatter something precious. In my heart, I question, what dreams did she harbor? Did she ever long for adventures beyond the backyard? Did her heart dance to a rhythm that echoed beyond our four walls? I turn these questions over like stones in my hands, each one imbued with a longing for connection. When my mother was still with me, I wore the blinders of youth. It wasn't until my 20s, following years of my own personal battles, that I began to unravel the truth behind our relationship. I sought out other voices, friends and mentors, who shared their own tales of mothers who held steady through storms, who wrapped their children in stories and love notes, who voiced their tenderness without hesitation. How I envied those bonds. Yet, I began to see a different light in my own experience. There was strength in our silence, a raw and honest strength that revealed layers of resentment and grief I hadn't wanted to unpack. What if my mother didn't know how to communicate the love she held? What if she was afraid, like a child, of sharing her greatest fears? Slowly, I started to understand that her silence was occasionally louder than words, a complex symphony of heartbeats and breaths. I remember a pivotal moment during my time volunteering in a hospice letter-writing program. I sat across from a delicate woman, her hands trembling, as she poured her heart onto the pages for her daughter. Her gaze brimmed with unshed tears. It was in that fragile space that I realized, writing, voices turned into ink, transformed silence into something tangible, something real. I wanted to reignite that with my own mother. But how could I capture the essence of a woman who shied away from expressing her soul? If only I could have whispered tenderly to her, It's okay to be vulnerable. I'm right here to let her know that she didn't have to shoulder her burdens alone. But in truth, my chances slipped away like sand through my fingers. Now, with every word I write, I feel the weight of the stories left untold, a love so powerful yet stuck in the corners of my mind. I believe deeply that every child carries a letter they never send. Words like delicate flowers bloom under the surface, waiting for the right moment to unfurl. As I confront these memories, I weave together the fragments of the woman I wish I had known, an artist with paint-stained fingers, a dancer with a laugh that pierced through the silences, a mother who could connect, if only given the space to breathe. In that vision, I start to feel a sense of reconciliation. Perhaps it is in my yearning for something more that I catch glimpses of her spirit. Maybe the mother I never truly knew still walks beside me, ever guiding, ever present in my pen's strokes. My heart whispers gently that our connection hasn't faded. Instead, it accentuates the beauty of words spoken and unspoken. Through my writing, I keep her alive in ways I never thought possible, bridging the silence that once held us apart. In the end, there's a lesson in this unfolding of memories. Every mother, every child, holds their own letters to read. It is through understanding the unsaid that we can start to heal, to forgive, and, just maybe, to find a way back to each other. Every word, a step taken, every emotion, a bridge built. In embracing this truth, I discover that sometimes the mother we never knew lives on within us, waiting patiently to be discovered. Now I see you. It's strange how, as children, we often see our mothers as these towering figures, unfathomable and slightly intimidating. We look up, and in doing so, we can miss the forest for the trees. I remember feeling that way, especially in those late-night moments when she should have been tired but instead seemed almost invincible. To me, she was the sun, and I was just a planet moving around her gravitational pull, too busy spinning in my youth to notice her orbit. As I grew, I began to unravel the complexity of her silence, a silence that, for years, felt like an impenetrable wall. Then, almost like magic, the world shifted. Time, it appears, has a way of marking the pages of a story in subtle ways. I was ready to look beyond the surface. I started noticing the small things, the way she ran her fingers through her hair when she was deep in thought, the soft hums escaping her lips as she washed the dishes, the ghost of a frown that passed across her face when the news upset her. Each tiny sigh transformed into a brushstroke, revealing a life filled with emotions she tucked away, only to share them with the shadows in our home. When I look at my mother now, I see layers. There's a resilience etched in the lines of her face, stories woven into the fabric of her being. I see a woman who navigated her own pain with grace, often carrying burdens she never spoke of. It's curious how, as children, we can't truly appreciate the weight of our parents' histories. We are so wrapped up in our own narratives that the mosaic of their lives somehow goes unnoticed, dimmed and overshadowed. And those moments of revelation? They weren't sudden. They crept in, unassuming. One quiet afternoon, I found myself flipping through an old photo album, the kind where the images have yellowed and the edges have curled with age. There was a photo of her, middle-aged, laughing unrestrainedly with friends. She looked so free, so unguarded. For an instant, I felt like I was peering through a keyhole into another world, one where she was not just my mother but a vibrant woman full of dreams and laughter. It was breathtaking, and it made me ache. But then there's an ache wrapped in gratitude. Being an adult child can feel like standing at the intersection of understanding and longing. I want to share my world with her, but I also want her to know that I now see her, really see her. I think of all those letters I wished I had written, the unsent words that swirled in the depths of my heart, waiting for just the right moment to make their entrance. It feels as if I have a treasure chest full of love, yet it sits there unopened. In the busy clamor of life, those letters slip quietly into a corner, gathering dust. But what if we return to those thoughts, unearthing the words we keep tucked away? It's a dance of vulnerability that pulls at the heart. Perhaps the letters aren't just for our mothers, they are also for us, a mirror reflecting not just who they are but who we've become because of them. Sometimes, I wonder what my mother would think if I were to send her a letter filled with all those sentiments, the unfiltered love, the confusion, and even the regrets. Perhaps she would smile, or maybe her brow would furrow as she considered the weight of it all, words that float like specters, lingering just beyond our comfort zones. Yet each whisper is a reminder that we can transcend those spoken boundaries. There's healing in that perspective. It binds the past and the present. When I listen closely, I can hear her laughter mixing with the winds of memory, a haunting melody that both comforts and stirs me. My mother's voice carries the stories of resilience, love shaped by sacrifice, and acceptance carved from silence. When I finally dare to pick up my pen, when I lean in and bend my thoughts into the written word, something miraculous happens. I become the bridge that connects our pasts. I see the mother whose dreams were perhaps smothered by the mundane, who laughed with friends while heartache simmered just below the surface. I see the one who loved fiercely yet held back, and for that reason I can forgive. I can forgive the countless times I longed for a hug that felt like an extension of acceptance, the moments of silence that hung heavy between us. It is in this profound act of forgiveness that I finally understand the depths of my mother. I start to see her not just through the fog of my own expectations, but as a woman shaped by her own shadows and glimmers of light. And suddenly, everything shifts. My view expands, and I recognize the tapestry of mother and child woven together with both joy and pain. Now, it feels less like there's a chasm between us, and more like a river flowing gently with our unspoken words. I can choose to dip my fingers in the water, to let the coolness wash over me as I embrace the beauty of what remains unsaid. Each letter remains unwritten, but they linger like unacknowledged dreams, just waiting for life to breathe into them. As I begin to explore this fragile, beautiful space, I realize the truth, that we can still connect, ground ourselves in a love that never wanes. Now I see you, Mom, and I'm ready to tell you everything.